Ooh, we are live. Hello, all
There
of
you
you.
go. We are live. All right. Three, two, one. We are live.
What's up?
And
What's
this is
up?
Neil D'Souza with Jason Vaz for Magic Monday.
Magic Monday, Magic Monday. We're
Nope.
one short today. We're one short today. You guys know, usually we have our boy Marlon Yee-Man here, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. And Neil, what do we hear? What knowledge are we here to bestow on these people?
Yeah. So today, what we really want to go at, and I think you are perfectly suited to be able to help us go down this road, is we want to look at this thing called FOMO as it relates to real estate. Come on, tell us a little bit about this, because I think too many people are going through this right now.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, as an honorary member, well, not an honorary member, an actual member of the millennial crew, a lot of us are feeling huge FOMO in today's real estate market.
Mm.
And
And just to clarify, FOMO is, for those of you that don't know, it's fear of missing out.
yeah, yeah, fear of missing out. And this has been, it's not new by any means, but we've definitely seen an increase because in Ontario, Southern Ontario's real estate market, we've seen over the past couple of years, I would say going from 2017 onwards, we've just seen this huge bull market. We saw it go crazy in 2017, leveled off a bit, and it's just been a steady climb ever since. And then 2021 was just like, let's knock it out of the park and make it even crazier. Multiple bids every single year.
Yeah.
You know, month over month growth, year over year growth, craziness. So for the first time home buyer, which is now the millennials, there is a piece of FOMO because you've got guys that were possibly in a position to buy maybe in 2018 that they didn't make the move. And then 2019 rolled around. They said, oh shoot, now those houses are worth me. Now they're more expensive. I was shopping for 5, now they're 550. Damn, I just missed out on 50K. And then the next year came where it's like, oh, now they're going for 6. And now when they're ready to when the iron's hot, they're going for 7. They didn't go to 50,000 interval. It went up another 100, in some cases 150. We're seeing micro markets where the entry price is $1 million. And in Toronto, they've always talked about this, like that million. It's been a headliner for at least 7 years, where it's like the average price in Toronto is $1 million. That's a skewed result, because they were looking at an average 4-bedroom home and stuff like that. Now it is.
You always see that in the news. $1 million, that's the average price. $1 million homes.
And the reality is that if you go into the downtown core, it's like 1.5. You want a house. You want a condo, 7. Like that's the long and short. Yes, you can find places for a little bit cheaper, but circling back to the whole FOMO thing is that now people don't care. They stopped caring. People are spending more time in their homes now. Like we're going to be locked up for the rest of this year. Let's we might get a little.
I got that.
They might put us out on a leash to go out in the yard this summer. They might have patios open for a little bit, but best believe come September, chained up. That's where we're going to be. And people are accepting that. So they are willing to spend more to get what they want. And a lot of millennials want what their parents and grandparents had. They want bigger homes. And that is what is fueling this archaic way of thinking where they'll spend whatever they need to spend to get what they want.
But hang on, Jason, just for a second. I don't know that I can really blame them for wanting that in this current environment where people are locked up, so to say, right? Where we're dealing with, if you had a condo in downtown Toronto, it was great for the longest time. You could go down, you could go to restaurants, you can go catch a game at the Air Canada Center, you could do whatever. And there was so much available. But now in this current environment, you can't go anywhere. And in fact, you got to stay within the confines of those 4 walls, and those 4 walls get really restrictive. So just from a mental health standpoint, I don't know if I really blame people for wanting to get something larger.
Further, look at the physical health. Most of these condos, people had a great community and a routine within their buildings, where they had, gyms inside their buildings, which they would go wake up, do their little run on the treadmill while listening to a podcast, Magic Mondays. Yeah, they would be doing that, and they can't do that anymore. Like the pools in condos are closed, the gyms are closed, like everything is completely shut down.
But as
And
you said, Magic Mondays is still on every
Magic
Monday
Mondays
with
is like,
Neil and Jason. So yeah, okay.
it's a pre-vaccinated show,
That's
so
right. You can't kick us off the airwaves.
so yeah, with this, the psychology behind it is, you paid a premium to live downtown, and it's like you're paying the premium price with no added benefit. Many of these restaurants have closed down. Yeah, there's curbside pickup, but you have to remember that there's more to going out to eat than just getting the food. It's the experience, it's the ambiance, it's socializing with people. And now we're kind of stuck in these bubbles. And I've seen this. I would say a good chunk of my deals as a realtor in Toronto have been people getting out. People that were renting now looking at buying. They're going as far up as Barrie because now working from home is the new norm.
Yeah.
And the news, it's misleading. I have an in with a lot of these big companies, having dealt with like how a lot of people, like a lot of corporate folk, get relocated.
Yeah.
It is in their best interest to have these people work from home.
Okay, wait. Tell us a little bit more about that. We'll come back to FOMO, but
we'll come
what are
back
you
to
saying as
FOMO, but I
far
want
as?
to I want to explain this the best way I can. Is that you look at something like investment banking, all right?
Yeah.
So we take a big company, we call it ABC company. They rent out maybe 6 floors from on a high rise in Toronto. That
Yeah.
location they need because it's close to the financial hub. Everybody needs to get there, easy commute. Well, now that everyone's working from home, they got to remember, like, hold on, how much am I paying for electricity for these 6 floors? My internet bill, and I got to have the bandwidth. Um, People don't realize, like, the chairs and stuff in corporate offices aren't owned by the corporation; they're rented by a third party. And just to move it an inch, they got to pay that third party hundreds of dollars to move it over. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of bureaucracy that happens back there.
Yeah. Companies are really saving money just by
They're
not
saving
having to have
a ton
people
of
in
money.
that infrastructure that they're paying for.
And they also look at it as they can now utilize that money better, reinvest it in their staff, and the staff are better off too, because the average person is paying about $400 a month just to commute to their location downtown, and then they're spending about an hour and a half each way, so 3 hours in commute, $400 a month. Now, Neil, you know as good as I do that $400 at today's current rates, that's $100,000 in your mortgage. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that someone sitting at home living, say, in the suburbs is saying, I sold my place. I have a 3-bedroom house. I spent an extra $100K. I can get a 4-bedroom house, make one room a kick-ass at-home office, and I save 3 hours every day. It's a no-brainer. And so that's from the employee standpoint.
Right. Yeah.
Let's look at the employer. I've got 6 floors. Well, I don't need to renew my lease for 6 floors. I can probably reduce that down to 2.
Yeah.
And make them floating offices. When everything is over and done with, we'll say, hey, if you want to work from here, perfect, you can. But it'll be, you book off a day, you come in maybe twice a week and stuff like that. And more companies are talking about this. So I think everyone's focused on the residential real estate. Oh, it's crazy, it's going up, and this.
Yeah.
I think the commercial side is going to take a huge hit, because it is what it is. It's going to also make way for other industries to step in.
Right. Well, look, we'll come back to commercial, because I could talk about commercial real estate and opportunities there, but I want to make sure that we kind of stick with this aspect of FOMO with regards to residential buyers, because I think it's a really concerning thing for a lot of people right now. And so can you talk us through a little bit of what you're seeing or what you're experiencing with some of these buyers, what it's like? Give us a little taste of what it's like in their world.
Boots on the ground, when we're looking at these homes, this is basically what happens.
Yeah.
everyone mentally
Now here's the thing. Let me frame it for a second. I want you to give us a taste of what it's like, and then boots on the ground, and then let's go back and look at it a little bit more for opportunities for that would help out the buyer.
So what we're noticing, so I'll just run you through a very basic scenario. You'll have a client that's looking for homes. Now the homes are selling quickly. That's the reality of it all, is that the time spent looking at homes has changed. It used to be a time when you would look at a home, say your offer date's at the end of the week, you got time to kind of process everything. And what we're noticing now is 2 days into the house being on the market, there's a bully offer. When you're showing it, you're writing up the offer that night. So from a buyer's perspective, they're coming in, they're looking at a house, and they're thinking, okay, Thursday's my offer date. Today's Monday, Thursday.
Yeah.
And they talk to their significant other, and then the realtor calls them saying, guys, there's a registered offer on the property they're presenting tonight. Remember all those stuff we talked about? We need to come up with a price right now.
Yeah.
So the first time they usually don't get it. The first time the buyer says, well, this is what I'm, they really tighten up on their price.
Okay.
They lose it.
Okay.
The problem is they've lost it.
Wait, don't tell us the problem yet. Just give us the feel of what's going on. We'll come back to the.
No. So I'll explain. So they lose the house. They never have a chance of buying that house.
Right.
And that is just the God honest truth. That's the tangible truth. Emotionally, though, they're still attached to that house.
Right.
And what they do, they'll bleed that into the second offer, where they'll compare the second house to the first house, and that'll fog up the offer, and they end up losing that. And then now when they go to house
so what's okay? Sorry, we'll come back to it. Yeah,
now that house number three, house number three, they're still feeling like the wound, like there's first the wound was put there from the first house they lost. The fogged up thing from the second offer is like they threw salt in the wound. And now that the offer date, they're just like, I'm maxed out at this price. Just put it on the table. We're buying this one. We're not losing this again, because they don't want to feel like losers.
Right.
That's what's happening in this market. Is there's all rationality is out the window. And it's interesting to see that we have gotten fewer showings month over month, but higher prices.
Okay.
So that's the thing, is that all our indicators suggest that the prices should be leveling off, but they're not.
Right.
They're definitely not going as crazy as they were in January, February.
Yeah.
For people to understand a real estate cycle in Toronto, they got to understand January, February are your best months to get top dollar. And March, April, May is when it kind of levels off. You get the most amount of sales in March, April, May.
Yeah.
But that's necessarily in the highest price.
Okay. Interesting. So from what I just got there, from what you were saying, is that buyers are sometimes they're coming into the market in a with logic, with rationale. They're coming in and they're like, okay, this is what I'm looking to spend. But then after experiencing some loss, losing out on a bidding for a property, maybe once, maybe twice, potentially even seeing friends and family lose out on some properties, they're taking on that sense of loss, like as if they lost out on getting something that was set up for them for their lives, and they're carrying it with them, and it's creating this frenzy.
Well, and the other thing too is that they're starting to doubt themselves.
Okay.
You got somebody who entered in, they were maybe casually looking, and everybody kind of starts off the same, where they're browsing on realtor.ca. Maybe they have an agent.
Yeah.
But they're browsing and they see what these houses are going for. And when they see something that they could have grabbed in November for maybe 650, 700, now demanding 950.
Yeah.
They want to just get in. Like, like we may look back at this time saying, well, you should have waited. But waiting hasn't paid off. Waiting, they lose when they wait. So they've seen that. They said, you know what, just get in. They see that rates are low. Like, let's face it, you and I were discussing this before we went live. Money's free right now.
Yeah.
And people need to get that. If you're borrowing under 3%, it is free. You are borrowing lower than the rate of inflation. Yeah. It means that the money, it's not costing you anything.
Yeah.
So when people know that, and then
Which literally last week we were talking about that with foreign buyers or foreign
yeah,
owners. Hey, why should they care about a 1% tax
yeah,
if properties are going up by 3 to 5 to 6% on an annual basis? And
exactly.
so,
And then
yeah.
the thing is that everything that they say to cool down the market always has a reverse effect.
Mhm.
Like they announced first, oh, we're not going to touch rates until 2023.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, so we said, oh, that means we can borrow more. And then they said, oh, actually, we're going to do it next year. Ooh, we've got to buy now, that means, because we won't be able to buy later. Nobody thinks the prices are going down. And the people that
Right.
do are they're
Yeah.
sadly mistaken. You know, it's it's a crazy one out there. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that now. I think right now, I'm glad to see that they're not the house prices aren't going too far over asking. They're a little bit more reasonable now, but they are still going over asking.
Yeah.
The
Well,
supply,
I don't think we can really, I don't think it's reasonable to expect prices to drop potentially at all for the next who knows how long.
yeah,
Just for the, there is there is so much cheap money. We've already talked about that. Interest rates are at all-time lows. If those interest rates go up at all, what it'll do is slow down the purchasing, right? So it'll mean that people won't get access to as much money as they would have right now, because they're not going to be able to afford as much. But what does that do to the housing prices? You'd have to see something like housing prices go into, uh, you know, go that much higher for prices to come down.
yeah.
Otherwise everyone will just stay where they are.
We also got to consider something, and this is what I've a lot of people misconstrue is that the buyer of today is a far more qualified buyer than the buyer of 10 years ago.
Really? Okay, come on,
And this
tell us
is
more
why I'm
about that.
saying is that they may be taking on more debt, but let's face it, let's go back to 2011. We were both in business then. We knew that there was no stress test. There was an internal one that the banks used, but we could always play with those numbers.
Mhm.
People were borrowing to their max,
Yes.
you know.
Yep.
There was the rates that you could go with a variable rate if you had.
People are still borrowing to the max, mind you.
They are, and the
Yeah.
reality was is that the lending rules back then 10 years ago was like if you put 20% down, you got it. You were pretty much approved. Like there was very little hoops to jump through. Now the hoops that people have to jump through, like you get a pre-approval. It says on your pre-approval, this is conditional on appraisal. This is
Yeah.
conditional on you putting 20% down. And now they have a stress test that they have to adhere to.
Yeah.
Now the ratios have to be in check. And we have to remember that the lending guidelines say that your ratios are 0.39, meaning 30% of your income, 39% of your income is the max you could be paying for your house. Which means all these people that are buying, if the market shifts, like we saw this in 2018. Remember at 2017 in April, that's when the stress test came in. The market actually did, the price went down. People just didn't sell their homes. People said, no, we'll just wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
They waited. That's all. I had a gentleman, he bought his place for 1.2 million. He needed to sell because he's like, it's too big of a house for me, this, that, whatever. I met up with him end of 2020. I said, listen, I could probably get you 1.4 for it. He just looked at me, he's like, I'm just going to hold on to it. I'll wait till it's
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the position many
Yeah.
Canadians are in. And where we get misconstrued is we're looking at, oh, the job loss. We have to admit the fact that a vast majority of this job loss is entry level positions. They're not homeowners. And yes, there's a huge amount of people not working, and my heart goes out to them. But one does not affect the other, not directly. Indirectly, possibly. I think maybe investors might be taking a bit more of a hit, but your average homeowner, no, I think they're pretty well protected.
Yeah. And investors, as much as you're concerned about that and you don't want to lose that money, it's a tax write-off anyway. So as long as you've made sure that you've kept some money aside, you're fine. The landlords that kept some money aside, if they had tenants that couldn't pay, they had to go into their wallet and take care of
Because
that.
they could refi their properties,
Yeah.
restructure things. Like they have a lot of options too. So I
Yeah.
don't even see them being a massive sell-off there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are, these are the people that, we'll go back to 2011. I remember this was, 2011 was a great year. It was the year I started in real estate. So I got licensed end of 2010, and then 2011 was when I was like practicing. So I'm very, very confident in that. I remember speaking to a bunch of guys, and at that time they said, "Oh, I'm waiting for the market to come down. That's what I'm going to buy." This is
Okay, so they were trying to time the market. They're
they're
looking
trying-
for
they're
the
trying to
market
time
to
the market.
drop.
Well, those same guys that were waiting for a $400,000 home to go down to 350 are looking at that same house and it's $1.2 million to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember looking at it. I remember picking out a house for sale for $500,000, and I remember I held an open house. So $500,000 was this house, and I say 500,000 because that was what we called it. We didn't say 500,000. We said 500,000. That meant something.
Right.
This
It
was
sounded more luxurious.
listen. This was a 3,200 square foot home. It needed updates, and I remember at my open house, someone saying, "Well, this doesn't feel like a $500,000 home." Now $500,000 doesn't get you anything. Like if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a $500,000 budget in the Durham region," I said, "Maybe a parking spot. Like what can I get you? Because it doesn't exist."
And that's the reason for the mass exodus out of Toronto,
Yeah.
because you can buy mansions for that price in other towns and cities.
Well, and that's just it. Is that I think what we need to. I think what millennials, especially because millennials saw this. Millennials were in their early 20s in 2011, and now in 2021 they're in their early 30s, and they're seeing it like, well, prices like tripled in the last 10 years, and it wasn't overnight. Like, let's face it, it's a pretty linear way of how it got there, and they're looking at like, is it crazy to think that in 20 years these houses are going to be going for 2.5 million? Now, not so much, because like I'll use my home for example. So my home is worth about $1 million. As you know, I just purchased it. That home was purchased in 2002.
Yeah.
180,000. Do you
Wow.
think the person that bought it would ever think 180,000 would turn into a million in like within 20 years? Nobody thought that.
No.
They thought, oh, this house, no way would anyone pay that kind of, and interest rates were 5%. They weren't crazy. That was what the price was. Now, for me to look at it now, like, and that's why the FOMO's kicking in, because they want to be they don't want to be sitting on the sidelines anymore.
Yeah.
They want to get in on the action.
And I can't blame them. Like I said, I think it's justified. If you're, it's always said that it's not about timing the market, but rather your time in the market, right? And the reality is that if you've got an asset, you got that asset, which it's not really an asset. A home's not really an asset because you're actually paying for it until you finally sell it. Then it becomes an asset. But all the same, it's still making more for you than most people's portfolios.
So it's interesting you say that, because I was doing a little exercise on the weekend. I had some free time. I was looking at what prices have gone up, and on average, they're going up by about $48,000 a year. Your home, the average home in GTA Durham area, it's about 40,000, 48,000
Yeah.
was the annual appreciation of a home. And when you look at that, it's like a third income in some households, because you might have to, like, that's about 50 grand a year. And if you've got like, two partners, dual income, making that, they're pulling about 100,000 in household income. But then the house itself is gaining that equity. So, and yeah, of course, you can only really appreciate it if you refinance to do something else with it, or if you sell it. But it's that comfort. And I think, again, going back, I think that's the FOMO. People are realizing, like, hey, if I bought 3 years ago, I'd have 150K right now in equity.
Well, and if you even look at it from an investing standpoint, I don't think that they're wrong in having FOMO, because if you bought a property last year, it's 100,000, it's worth 100,000 more now. If you're able to then, if you've got the common sense, if you're listening right now, I want to say this loud and clear. If you've got the common sense to be able to access the equity in your home, you can turn it into an investment property, a couple of investment properties, And now all of a sudden your investment properties can be paying for that liability that you call a home. Very quickly you can turn around and use that equity to your benefit.
Yeah.
So, I think they're actually playing a really good game, as long as they're putting something aside.
Mhm.
If there's ever a lull, you can't be, if you're the person when the music stops and there's no chair, right? If you have to sell, that's the only time you lose.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that it's there's so many ways to look at it. I think, like, if any millennials are watching this, this would be my message to you guys. This
Okay, message to millennials.
message to millennials, okay? I'm one of you, so listen to me, all right? Get into the market. I'm not saying overpay for stuff, accept the fact that there's a premium. Understand that you're protected. Like right now, what are you borrowing at? 2%? And you're protected to up to like almost 5. So even if rates go up, you're still okay. And you need to trust the process, because if you've spent the last 3 to 4 years sitting on the sidelines, and I'm one of them. I'm one of those millennials that love living at home with my parents. I helped sell real people homes for a living. I was like, I like living at home with my mom and dad. It was great. And then it was only until I made that move, I'm like, holy shit, this is fantastic. Like, you make that move, you realize that you are paying yourself. You are making money in your sleep. So I'm one of the ones that, like, hey, I'm a firm believer of, hey, rent out the basement, house hack your home. Not everybody likes it. Some people like the glitz and glamour of having the whole home to themselves. Like, I'm different. But yeah, no, enter the market, guys. And the other thing too is, like, just a quick tidbit at the end, is that understand the process of what an entry level home is. Many a times people are telling me they're checking their list of everything they need. Um, don't have too much pride to not grab the condo first and then the detached later. Because that time frame is, you're better off. It's time in the market, not timing the market. So that 3 years where you might be staying at home and saving, the house is going to make more money than you can save. Let's face it. Very few of you guys can put $50,000 a year.
I'm going to totally disagree with you on this one. I'm like, no, don't do the condo. I mean, condos are great. They are going up in value. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think that if you can bite the bullet, if you can enjoy just a little bit of having to mow a lawn or something like that,
yeah,
I say buy the house rather than the condo, because
it comes down to the person. Somebody's like,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
$1,000 budget. I can find you a pretty shitty house that's like 3 hours away from Toronto. Sure, you can live there.
There you go. That'd be a new slogan.
Probably not. Like, it's probably not going to make you money, but you buy a freaking condo, like a 1-bedroom, live in it. Like, you get a 2-year mortgage on it. Live in it, flip it over.
Right.
You'll make some cash.
You might not make 100,000 in a year, but you're still going to be able to enjoy something.
Exactly. And that's what I think people need to understand. Like, I like looking at this market, looking at it several different ways. It seems like every time the news comes out, we get like a pullback a little bit, and then it's a slingshot. We pull it back, we let it go. We pull it back, we let it go. So if anyone's shopping right now, like,
yeah, hey, if anyone's shopping, how do they get a hold of you, Jason, other than watching Magic Mondays?
If you're shopping, you go on jasonvaz.com, jasonvaz.com. All my information's there. For my TikTok friends, exact same thing, at Jason C. Vaz. Yeah, look me up.
And if you need financing, you can, of course, hit me up, neilmortgages@gmail.com, or you can just go to Leadership to Wealth. All my contacts there. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Neil_D'Souza. There you go. Got to throw in my TikTok.
I want to do a quick plug-in for what we may be talking about next week.
Okay.
A little bit more on this. The idea of utilizing your equity to pay down your mortgage quicker. That is fantastic. A lot of you guys have asked me about house hacks and how you can rent out rooms and do stuff like that, but this is an equity hack, and I think you guys want to stay tuned and listen to that one.
Love it. Love it. Well, Jason, even without Marlon, and our prayers go out to Marlon. Marlon, get well
Yeah.
soon. We're definitely looking forward to having you back with us. But Jason, thanks again.
Take care. Always a pleasure. You take care, Neil. Oh, we're still live, right? I said bye, but it froze on me.